Captain Dalvi's presentation addressed it extremely well, where he said that each and every, these are the, there are 6-7 parameters, and these, everyone has to be appraised upon these parameters.
My second observation is as far as Captain Dalvi's speech is concerned. I have always believed whatever training we impart to the students who are going on board, the most important training is on board. What about mentoring? I was coming to that, but that point was beautifully highlighted by Captain Dalvi. My question is to Pallab Banerjee, Captain Pallab Banerjee. Sir, don't you think we should have some kind of a topic in the curriculum of the senior officers, masters, chief officer or second engineer regarding training of trainers? And to Captain Dalvi also, when you analyze the confidential report of senior officers, do you have a yardstick or a measure of the training imparted by those senior officers to their juniors? Don't you think if it develops this kind of a system, then training on board will be much more beneficial?
Before you answer that, Captain Banerjee, before you answer that, there is a small observation. All people who have already passed their exams are asking you questions, sir. People who have not passed their exams are not even daring to ask you any questions. I don't know why.
Of extreme importance, and when I recollect my cadet days and I look back, I feel that whatever I could do with confidence out at sea, I owe to my first chief officer or my first master who gave me opportunity to do that thing, holding my hand. You know, so there is no two way that the onboard training has got its own importance and immense level of confidence a seafarer gets when he actually carries out the job under the supervision of his superior. We within the company do encourage our senior officers time to time and every opportunity through seminars to do these kind of things. Our appraisal system do have this particular category where the senior officers are appraising the junior officers for his keenness to learn, to come up and to be ready for the higher rank. In addition to the appraisal form, which we have within our system, you know, a look at the appraisal of any junior, and many a times it reflects more on the appraiser than the appraisee. If the person has said this particular person is useless, he is poor, I will be keen to know why he formed that opinion. You know, maybe a small note from the appraiser to say or justify his observation and highlighting his weaknesses. Only then we will be able to take the real value out of that appraisal. Otherwise, it is not going to be of any use. So, appraisal reports are definitely important, but we have something which is called development checklist embedded in our quality system, which we hand over to a person who is ready or is preparing himself for the next rank. It is something like our cadet record book, but he has to carry out a task at least twice under the supervision of the superior, master or chief officer. If it is second officer, he has to carry out those tasks which are related to the chief officer's job under the supervision of the chief officer. So that is a formal way we have embedded in our system to encourage this mentoring process.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just want to know from you all that this is about 1978 and present with all the various, you have these regulations and guidelines and whatnot, ISPS. What is the percentage of accidents comparable from those days to now? And that will give us the answer whether the training or all the paperwork or all the guidelines is causing all the problems.
Question in my mind. Yes, it was not exceptional those days. this kind of scenario which you explained. I'm not sure if all the accidents were getting reported at that time. There was no formal system of reporting. There was nothing in existence on checklist till early 90s. That's where I first saw what is called quality management system or safety management system. The quality of the people, as I said, at inception level at that time was much, much better than what we have today. As we discussed in the morning, the cream used to come in this profession. Today, when you ask what we are going to do to attract that kind of youngsters to this profession, I think we need to give them the career option ahead. After 32% stops, you say in the morning, he is going to be master and then senior master and maybe drunk master after that. So that part needs to be addressed. We need to give them proper career growth and career options going forward. And I think the way the shipping is going, the offshore sector is going today in international market, it is very much possible to attract the talent from seapool who will be better managing the day-to-day operations of our industry better than any management graduate. So attracting right people, analysis of accidents not available because those days was not getting reported. We are giving too many checklists to our seafarers and shutting off their minds. I was surprised on one of the oil major vessels I had opportunity to visit. They had checklist for ironing clothes. And where we are going to draw the line? We are stopping the thinking process of seafarers and not allowing them to think on their own and trying to run the ships from shore. If that approach is going to be taken, I don't think we should be expecting or talking even about the quality and attitude and all these big words. Thank you.
You had pointed out in the presentation that someone should request the central government that only candidates with sponsorship should be allowed to get training. This has been going through my mind for quite some time. The point is, do you think it will be practical? Because even the training institutes these days have gone into a commercial line of thinking, where they are interested only in carrying out the training, not in getting them placements or anything like that. Including some of the best institutes in India. I don't want to point out the name. Some of the best institutes which were meant for only 4C and 3C training for seafarers, these days are more interested in carrying out MBA courses and all, which has no use to us. Thank you.
I think this question is to Kashravi.
Comments from Sanjeev and Anish on this. Very relevant. It's really painful to see every day during my day-to-day office work. Literally, hundreds of boys visiting offices, going door to door. Yet when many of them are from middle class or lower middle class background, their parents have taken loan to give them this pre-sea training, and here they are now more than a year, 2 years, 3 years waiting for on-board training slots. That's the ground reality I see every day. So if the product coming out of training institutes is much larger than what is the requirement of training slots, then the administration has to put some check on it. And my view is, unless a candidate is not having that sponsorship, he should not be going ahead with the pre-sea training.
that's not happening.
Most of the companies are, reputed companies are doing their own selection. You know, after 10+2, we conduct our own examination, we have our own set of criteria for selection. They go through the personal interviews and then we send them to our selected institutes where we have say in their in the governing of those training institutes. We can give our feedbacks to tweak their courses to our needs. You know, that is very important to stay in line with the industry requirements. And only those institutes are used by reputed companies to send their boys. But there are hundreds of other institutes which have mushroomed all over the country who have no regards to what's going to happen to that boy after he comes out of it, and they are not concerned with it also, rightly or wrongly, but that is what the factual situation is. And if it is not in the hands of industry or the training institutes to put control on those, that administration has to step in and take some measures like what I suggested to address this issue, which is really we are grappling with today.
Thank you.